What's going on, Entrepreneur Alliance? Austin Distel here, doing a fantastic interview. I'm super excited for this one. We got Alex Brown here, one of the co-founders of Dollar Beard Club. And let me just give you a little intro on who this guy is because, man, their company is an empire. Alex is a serial entrepreneur from LA. Am I correct, Alex?
Originally from Toronto area, actually, but I've been in LA for almost 3 years now.
Yeah, so we got a Canadian in the house. Fantastic. And you've worked in several different industries, right? Mostly on this high effective strategies to streamline operations.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of different industries, lots of different startups, companies, really like a whole mix. But yeah, through most of it, I've done a lot of operation stuff, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of operations
Pretty
stuff.
much covers everything, more or less.
Of course, man. Life of an entrepreneur. And you have two big success stories, right? We have Coolbox and now Dollar Beard Club. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, Coolbox was actually featured as a great product on the Shark Tank. And you guys even got a bit, or you got a deal with Robert, right?
Lori,
my bad. Yeah. So that's fantastic. We got a Shark Tank guy on here. And on top of that, you've now gone on to make the Dollar Beard Club one of the most successful product subscription companies in the world. And did it start with that one video that's just absolutely hilarious, or was it going on before then?
Yeah, I mean, well, like the whole Dollar Beard Club, and I think what we attribute the success to is that while we were doing Coolbox, we actually had a couple other companies that we started, products that we launched to market. We had an agency where we were helping people do websites, videos, explainer videos, animation videos, and actually like product development, engineering, prototyping, stuff like that. But the whole time, all of us grew our beards, and it was just really a symbol of us saying, you know, we want to be who we truly are and not try and fit into somebody else's box of what, you know, a business person should look like. And if someone were to judge us based on how we look, then quite honestly, it's probably not somebody that we want to be doing business with anyways. We can't be our true selves. So when we're growing our beards, we started to try like beard products. We're like, oh, what else do we do with our beards other than stroke them? Let's try putting stuff in them. And there's all kinds of different beard oils on the market, balms, which help shape, and shampoos and stuff. And there was tons of ingredients in them we couldn't even pronounce for some of them. And other ones were like, you know, $20, $30 a bottle. And we thought with, you know, the manufacturing experience that we have, the connections that we have, the ability to make videos, like let's do something that could kind of disrupt this space a little bit, make these products a little more affordable, because you know, we still have tons of people that don't even know what beard products are, which is a tremendous opportunity for us as we create this industry, right? And so we filmed our first video. It was like 36 hours, including editing. Which cost about $800, which is pretty crazy because we've made videos that are, you know, 120 grand now that haven't even necessarily performed as well as that first one, but really that resonated well with people. Started to get picked up by all kinds of major news outlets and really went viral. But it kind of started with that core mantra of, hey, this is who we are. We've got nothing to hide. We're going to be funny. We're going to be raw. We're going to grow our beards and, you know, take care of them. Taking care of yourself as a man now is totally acceptable for those of you who don't do it. Male grooming is a thing now. It's kind of like there's an old commercial for Zest body wash like 20 years ago with this football player we were looking at and kind of like thinking about it in terms of where we are. And body wash wasn't used by men like 20 years ago. Now every guy's got body wash. Nobody uses a bar of soap. I shouldn't say nobody. It's a lot more rare now. So we're kind of at that point with this beard industry, and I think I've kind of gone on a tangent here, but that was just kind of the genesis of the whole beard club idea, and it's taken off from there.
That is so cool. I love it, and what I love most is the transparency and the fact that you guys are authentic to who you are. It's a core value of the Entrepreneur Alliance that, you know, we aren't the typical guru marketing guys that you see out there selling high ticket programs that maybe have a month or two of experience and they're just trying to get rich quick. We're really about like the authenticity, transparency, and so, you know, I love that what you guys are doing too is kind of the same mantra.
For sure, yeah. And I think when you're trying to do something that isn't truly aligned with, you know, your true path and who you really are, you know, you may find success financially or via different accolades or whatever, but at some point it might be taken away from you, or you'll become unhappy because you've got to that point, not coming from a place of truth and integrity and honesty. So we've even seen that with certain, like I said, videos we've done with Dollar Beard Club where it wasn't really from our true voice and it didn't take off as well as certain videos. So it's even an ongoing thing for us to be completely aligned with who we are, and something I definitely encourage every entrepreneur to do, because at the end of the day, money's money, but if you do something you love and you're respected for what you truly believe in, then it's a very fulfilling life to live,
Yeah. Now tell me this, Alex, what do you feel like the difference is between the people who say fake it till you make it, and then the other side is be authentic to who you are?
So there's obviously there's kind of a balance there. I think the more that we've been able to network with really successful entrepreneurs and business people and celebrities and influencers and stuff, there's always a fake it till you make it kind of component. But you kind of realize that everyone's to some degree doing that until they reach a point where they're like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I need to be authentic. So it's kind of a balance. You don't want to ever be really dishonest. But there's nothing wrong with being confident. There's nothing wrong with feeling like you're worth what you truly are. So, if you're acting how you want to be perceived, and that's how you'll be perceived. But it doesn't mean go out and be dishonest and tell people lies and try and be something that you're not. But it's definitely it's something that not just entrepreneurs, people in general should really do is see themselves as they want to be, see themselves as that's already true, and then that will become true. So I guess to answer your question, it's a bit of balance, but
yeah,
don't lie.
Totally. I think that's a great answer, man. I think a lot of people struggle with this because they try and sell the dream, because selling the dream sometimes gets them the dream, right? On the other side of it is so many people relate to authenticity and transparency and sincerity. And so just being who you are, people naturally gravitate towards that, the interpersonal feeling. Like, I can relate with that guy. He's not so far-fetched and out of my league that I can't even imagine myself to be him. So I think what you're doing and the way you think about things is really cool. So I read something that's crazy interesting. I want to know if it's a myth or if it's real. I read on Entrepreneur Magazine that you guys made $8 million in the first 8 months. Can you debunk? Is this a myth, or am I reading it wrong? Is that a typo?
No, you're reading it right, but I would say the wording makes it seem like we're all millionaires. Our company did $8 million in sales, which is tremendous for a startup to be profitable right out of the gates. It also produced a ton of different issues in terms of basically, maxing out the capacity of our website, which really couldn't handle it, and having to rebuild that, which was like renovating a house while there's a party going on, as Chris likes to say. Inventory issues because we sell physical products. We've been fortunate enough to really have a message and a product that fits the market very well. And we've been responsible in growing our business to that point. I saw somebody actually ask the question about that. We didn't take in any major funding whatsoever. We've been able to do this largely through cash flows and being responsible with, what comes in. But so yes, it is true. And a lot of people see that and they're like, wow, what a huge success. But there's a lot of, sleepless nights that go into that. For example, if there's a website issue, then it's like, hey, all hands on deck for an all-nighter to fix this and make sure that customer service, is able to do their job. We have enough agents that we're able to bring on in order to handle like the issues and make sure everyone's taken care of. So, there were a lot of tremendous learning experiences wrapped into that, but it's definitely true.
Dude, what an awesome success story. That is so inspiring. And I think that if you are thinking right now as an entrepreneur watching this, that I one day want to start a product subscription business, the story of Dollar Beard Club should just get you fired up on the inside, because that is fantastic. Now, we're going to kind of jump into how we got to the launch point, because I know there's a lot of setup to make it happen, right? So when you first came up with the idea, because you guys were growing out your beards in another business, and then you're like, wow, this is actually a fantastic idea. How did you guys find the market proof that this is a want instead of just solving your own need?
Yeah, I mean, we saw like a continued rise in just beard products. We were being peppered with advertising, so we knew that there was a market for it. There was another company that was on Shark Tank for it called Beard Brand. They didn't get a deal, but like, you know, they had this exposure that was kind of brought to the market itself, which is really our primary focus on now, which isn't necessarily competitors. It's actually growing our own market. But we saw that there was something out there. We didn't know how big the actual opportunity was until we got into it. And we were like, wow, this is actually, you know, tremendous position that we have and ability to become a category king and actually, you know, be at the forefront of this industry in various different ways. But we also set up social media funnels, social media presence, and we were sharing memes. We actually were able to get the Dollar Beard Club domain and everything, social media handles. So we were growing our presence beforehand, spending money on that in terms of growing the influence online, the engagement, and really having kind of like a base platform. We also ran a number of different kind of like competitions on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to grow our following and to get our email list up.
Yeah. So
by the time we were actually ready to launch, we had an email list, we had a social media following, we had access to influencers, we had basically a number of different things in our pocket to make sure that when we press launch, there was actually going to be a buzz around it, that we could then parlay that into some media attention, and get it picked up by some of these sites. In terms of like the actual product, so we actually filmed the Dollar Beard Club video over 6 months before we launched it, about 7 months before we actually launched the business. And in that time, we were this was kind of like one of the many hats I was wearing, you know, going to different suppliers. We have a great manufacturing sourcing agent in China. We were working on some of our hard goods products. If people are thinking of working with manufacturers in China, if you can find a reliable person, I can refer you to ours as well. It's very difficult to talk to, say, 30 different factories, compare the quality, compare the samples, and kind of manage all that. So we had somebody who was doing all that for us, which helped tremendously. We do contract manufacturing for all of our products for the time being anyway. So we looked at multiple different partners in the California area throughout the US that could make high quality products. Before we started, it was a little harder because we didn't have really any idea what we were going to do. So we're basically walking into these meetings with contract manufacturers being like, hey, this is what we're forecasting. And they're like, cool, but you haven't made $1 in sales yet, so we're not really sure what to believe you, and it's a bit of back and forth. So we found some suppliers, took them kind of the formulations we had in mind. They were able to make those, do all of our packaging, everything like that. So we had to make the investment in our inventory before we launched, which, you know, again, cost money, cost time, and was a pretty big investment. But we're glad that we did that because we were thinking, hey, let's do like a soft launch maybe and just kind of test the market out, which is definitely a strategy that can work for tons of companies. We just felt really confident in this idea, and we felt that when we pressed go, we were going to sell a lot. So we made that investment in products, kind of brought everything together, and then it was kind of go time. Let's click launch. Actually, while Chris was recording the Shark Tank episode, because they're recorded quite a bit in advance, we launched Dollar Beard Club the same week. So it was pretty crazy. Like, it was a crazy time for us. So we launched, and then, like I said, we had some influencers queued up to share the posts. Through some of our advisors, we were able to get access to various pages, and really through kind of the own snowball that we created and this just giant push right off the beginning, we're able to get that traction, and that's when we started seeing the media attention like inbound. And there's actually lots of tricks that we've learned since then in terms of media and how to pitch stories and stuff. It's something I highly recommend to people, to have a media plan outlined in terms of maybe what smaller blogs, what larger blogs, different authors that write about stuff that's relevant to the business that you're launching. You can send them a product, or you can send them an anonymous tip from another email or something. There's all kinds of different tricks, but we actually created something that got that snowball going so that attention came to us. And as time's gone on, we've really had to, if we're launching a new video, we need to have like a story behind that, or else someone's like, hey, it's Dollar Beard Club's 6th big commercial. It's funny, but like, Trump just got elected. So you're on the bottom page of news right now if we're even going to write about you. So you really have to think about what makes that interesting to that person, pitch them in the right way. Well, that's kind of like everything that went into it. And like I said, since then, it's just been continual learning and updating and systematizing, organizing, and growing from one kind of milestone to the next.
Wow. This is awesome. I love it. I mean, the people that are probably watching this right now have a full page of notes already. Their mind is going off. And I'm curious, I thought it was so interesting that you said that while you were recording Shark Tank, or your partner Chris was, you were also launching Dollar Beard Club at the same time. Which one was considered like the side hustle, or were they equal in your mind? What happened there between two businesses?
They were equal, and we had separation between the two as much as Chris and I were involved in both. But we have just a tremendous team for both companies, and it wasn't like, hey, we now have two full-time jobs. It's like, this requires this from us, this requires this, and we were very careful about that. Especially when dealing with investors, they really want to know, like, if you're involved in multiple projects. It's a very kind of tricky question, or very to answer if that is asked. So we were very careful about that. I was also actually back in Canada at the time visiting my family. I think there was a wedding going on that I was going to when we launched it. And I woke up and we were on like product hunt, and I'm like set as the company contact for that. So I'm like answering questions. I'm like trying to visit with my family. It was just not as full time.
So going with that theme, it takes almost a small village to run a successful company. Now, what's your hiring process? Do you look at VAs that you can get to do a minuscule task, or do you look for somebody that's like rock solid, there for the long run, and you don't have to train them? They're prepared already, or like what's your mindset behind that?
Chris has really been a fantastic recruiter. He recruited me like 3 years ago on a dream and a startup that we were working on that didn't work out so well. But really, I think the most important thing, obviously you have to look at your business specifically, but it's really your vision and finding people that aren't necessarily it's kind of a balance. So there are some people that you can hire that are for specific tasks that it doesn't matter if they stay for 2 years or 1 year, like that person can be replaced. But the best employees are the ones that are entrepreneurial, that you can have as shareholders in your business, that are your partners and not just your employees. Really, our team with Dollar Beard Club I can't even say enough good stuff about them. They'll bend over backwards for the company. They believe in what we're doing, which is the most important thing. And they all wear multiple hats and are interested in doing so and want to learn more. So, I think the most important person that you can hire is somebody that's willing to learn and work hard and make mistakes, not necessarily the most qualified person for that job, because that's all that person's going to want to do. They're not willing to – I shouldn't say this, specifically about everybody, but they're not always as willing to make mistakes and to try new things and stuff like that. If you have a specific need for a coder, then like that's a very specific position that can be filled for that language that they're coding in. But for somebody who does operations or marketing, email management, there's so many intertwined aspects of our business and all of that if somebody doesn't have a full understanding and isn't like, hey, I want to learn about this and I want to learn about that and I'll go here. All of our roles at Dollar Beard Club have changed and pivoted, and we can bring a specific person on that can do one task that frees that up, and then we can go then focus on another area. So that's the most important quality. Somebody that's actually really entrepreneurial and wants to make it work, wants to make the vision work, and it doesn't really matter if they're the most qualified person. They just have to want it. I said finding those people can be tough though, because often they want to have their own businesses. But it's just a matter of finding that right kind of fit for that person at that time who's like, hey, before I go and start this all by my own, like I would love to learn about this and like help this team grow. And I'm really excited about what they're doing. So I'm going to devote a couple of years of my life to helping this company become something special.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great philosophy. Off the bat, like, do you know off the top of your head how many employees you guys have currently?
Yeah, we've got 10 full-time employees right now, and we're growing that as we grow as well. But like I said earlier, we do have all of our fulfillment is outsourced by an awesome company called Shipwire. Our contract manufacturing is outsourced, and our customer service, we have a firm that we work with that's local here that can kind of add agents and take them off depending on spikes and whether it's we launch a new video. Typically, there's an influx in customer service tickets based on how to place orders or whatever. So we do outsource quite a bit of our labor, and it just makes more sense for us at this point anyways. We may decide to internalize all of that, but it allows us to be really lean and mean and focus on, the high level stuff, the marketing and operations and, moving the needle for the company in general. Instead of spending a ton of time managing various different parts, we can have one point of contact that we're managing for each of those.
So a lot of entrepreneurs are either solopreneurs or they have a partner, but often they don't just come around with a giant team all the time. What is like the first one or two positions that you think are immediate needs for hiring when you start a product subscription business?
I think ideally you want to have a co-founder who would be your CTO. We've had various tech issues and migrating to different versions of our site throughout. And again, it's that whole, like I said, renovating a house while there's a party going on. But there's a lot of like kind of out of the box customizable solutions that can be really great for launching a business, like a subscription based business. So you don't have to have a CTO. But really it depends on the industry that you're in. If it's physical products, maybe somebody that's an expert in those products that can do the operations. But really, I can't say specifically like the kind of, like role that you want to have in those 1, 2, 3 co-founders that you have. But really, it's got to be somebody who's willing to do it all, like yourself, and somebody that's like, hey, we need more help in operations. I'm going to jump in and help out on this. But it's kind of finding that balance between doing it all and then having separation between departments until you can bring more help on in each, because you don't know what's going to need more help and when, and making that plan is also very important.
Yeah. Alex, have you read the E-Myth before?
I have not, actually.
Okay, yeah. Brief synopsis. It's about like how to systemize your brand, your whole business to be franchisable. Basically like before you hire whatever position you're kind of doing or any task you're doing, write up a job description up front of what that person needs to do, the qualifications they need to have, and like A, B, C, D, how to do the job, right?
Yeah.
And that way, you want to put a pay structure to it. How much would you pay somebody to do this up front? And then hopefully when you scale, you can kind of pass that along as a hiring process filter / like qualification module, so wasn't sure if you've ever done anything like that, but you mentioned an out of the box solution for some people that maybe don't want to have another person like a CTO. Off the top of your head, what was that out of the box solution?
Right, there's a lot of good stuff in the subscription space right now, in the e-commerce space. Really, like top of mind is Shopify. We've worked with them on a couple different sites. We didn't work with them with Dollar Beard Club, but they've come a long way in terms of all the different plugins, and in terms of like cost and speed and finding developers that are just experts in working with Shopify. Their system's so scalable that you have all of a sudden you get like a random media coverage thing and there's 10,000 people on your site. It can handle that, right? There's kind of the WooCommerce, WordPress setup. There's a number of different kind of setups out there. But I've really come to enjoy Shopify. I've spoken with a lot of different internet marketers who are now switching over to that. They've come a long way. They're a Canadian company, which is all right. Got to promote the motherland where I can, right? But yeah, it's very tempting to want to go out and build your own kind of custom system. But until you get to a certain size, take this from our experience, it's really not worth it until that kind of logical point is reached, because you don't want to renovate a house while the party's going on. It's been tough. But fortunately, that's behind us. We have some really great stuff that we're now building into our website. But starting with something that's more out of the box, tried, tested, and true. You don't necessarily have to build your own custom CRM. People lose millions of dollars doing that. But yeah, that's really a direction I'd recommend checking out. So WooCommerce with WordPress, Shopify. There's all kinds that you can look up though, and kind of weigh the benefits as they sit to your product, your business.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've, so far in the interview, we've talked about getting, the product, the idea having legs. Then you start building a team around it. We now have a system to sell the product online. But the next step is, how do we fulfill the product? How do we get this thing manufactured and distributed? So at this point, everything is kind of set up in place, but how do we go about selling this thing? Like, how do you systemize that kind of process?
Right. So that's a good question, and there's kind of different routes you can get to that. Like, say with Coolbox, we went the Indiegogo route where we were able to collect sales beforehand and, kind of manufacture after. And Dollar Beer Club was the opposite because the products are much simpler. There's zero technology and a bottle of beard oil. So when you have a more complex product, that manufacturing timeline is going to be longer. Your development costs are going to be higher. But really, it's kind of an ongoing process. As you grow, you'll actually have access to bigger and better suppliers, which you didn't before because you can hit minimum order quantities. It's really just like we have one of the most solid operations analysis guys that I've ever met in my entire life. One of my best friends, Brett Anderson, and the guy will like make endless spreadsheets to allow you to use the data you already have to actually make decisions like that and kind of what the next steps are. When you're first starting out, that data is not available. So it's really like, there's risks involved in terms of who do you go with for a supplier, or what are our minimum orders going to be? How do we forecast orders when we've never even had one? And that's where a lot of companies kind of go the crowdfunding or pre-order route. I would recommend, because we've gone through it with Coolbox with setbacks for manufacturing, getting as close to possible with your own funding, your own investment. A lot of people, like, I get a lot of like ads on LinkedIn and stuff like that who now think that I'm an investor and like want me to invest in their company, and they have like really nothing to show for it but a business plan. So getting as far as you possibly can by yourself shows a lot about not only you and your resourcefulness to an investor, but it also allows you to start to play around with what the market demand might be, whether it's through Indiegogo or pre-sales or just through getting feedback from people. Usually when you get feedback, you don't want to go to friends and family because they'll probably be nicer than just like random people. And again, like if you're dealing with a new product, it's like Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse. So sometimes there is the whole, you need to actually create your own market. It's kind of like finding that balance. There's no real clear answer ever to like operations or the flow of a business. You really have to feel it out, make decisions from the heart with data that you can analyze, with your mind, and map it out as best as you possibly can. And then you got to jump in with both feet.
Dude, that's awesome. Now, I'm sure it can be incredibly scary to make that first purchase order from the manufacturer for the minimum quantity, especially when it's a high amount. Like, how did you come up with that? What was the minimum order? And like, what was the feelings inside? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, that was the big risk. So we had to place minimum order quantities for us at the time were 5,000. We actually ordered above that. That's 5,000 units for different products and stuff like that. So, our first, I can't even remember what our first order was. We had to pay 50% when we started production and then 50% when it was released. So we were out, hundreds of thousands of dollars for, weeks, and it was like a little stressful. We're like, hey, this better work. Like, hopefully we can at least get our money back and turn these products over once. And then that feeling kind of died away as we got more and more confident. And we're just like, hey, this is going to work. Like, we can make this work. This is totally going to work. And so you have to kind of like fake that confidence a little bit in the beginning. But really, like, if you feel confident about your product and the market, which we did through all the the research that we had done and like the social media presence we had built beforehand, then really like it's just taking that risk and just going for it. And it's a little bit scary when you're playing with your own money, but you just got to do it.
Yeah, and you were completely playing with your own money, right? Like, I think I heard you in the beginning say that you didn't take on investment, you didn't take on debt, not sure, but like what was that like? Because it's a big amount right up front, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it was a big commitment, but again, like that's your skin in the game. And like a lot of people, like I said, that not necessarily just approach me, but approach investors all the time. Just in speaking to them, they're like, hey, some of these people come to us and they're like, hey, we need $100,000 to start this business. And, that's why a lot of people have to go through what's called the fool's round, which is your first round of investing, which is friends and family, right? So if you're not willing to put your own money into a product and basically go to the verge of bankruptcy, if you will, then this really probably isn't something that you're ready to run with. You know what I mean? You have to fully believe in something and be ready to risk it all, or else, why would you expect somebody else to do it? It's an easy thing to be like, hey, let's play with someone else's money. If we lose it, who cares really? It's an entirely different thing to have your own skin in the game, and really, like, that's what drove like a lot of the passion out of the gates. Is like, yeah, this is gonna work. There's no option for it not to.
Wow, guys, if you're listening to this right now, success leaves clues. What a fantastic story. So when last question about manufacturing, rule of thumb, do you have like a rule or a checklist that a manufacturer must have in order to use them?
So there's a number of different like qualifications. Again, it's entirely dependent if you're manufacturing a cosmetics product like us versus a wearable device or whatever. Entirely different capabilities that you have to check against. Really, like, I think it's kind of cheesy to say, but what's really important to us is like somebody who cares about what they're doing. That love and that energy that they put into their business, if it's not matched with yours, like your customers are getting products that don't have what you really want to deliver to them. I fully believe that that's a real thing, and a real, like, if you're putting stuff on your face and it's like filled with resentment and people that hate their jobs, like, you're just rubbing that all over yourself, right? I don't feel good about that. But so, our manufacturers that we've partnered with, the people that we trust to deliver products to our partners, are people that we personally like and like to engage with. And, it makes for a bad supplier relationship if you don't like them. It's very tough to deal with people. But beyond just the, I guess, like, that stuff, there's like a number of different things. There's obviously like pricing, there's delivery time, fulfillment time. There is like the structure of like you have to pay up front, or 50% down, 50% after, 30% down, 70% when it's delivered. Their quality standards in terms of their quality control. This is like obviously very important. Again, with a cosmetics product, something that people are rubbing on their face, you have to be very careful that they're going through testing as they run. Say it's 20,000 units, like the smell, the consistency, as well as the actual safety of the product is very important to us. And not just because it's our legal obligation, because it doesn't feel good if somebody's using a product that's no good anymore, right? So if they have really good quality control standards, processes by which they manage that quality control process that is very transparent, that you can have access to, that takes a lot of pressure off of your company itself. If you have all these certifications from the manufacturer and what they do, which a lot of them are very expensive to get, especially if you're talking like technology or personal care products, then there's the reliability, and if they do what they say they're going to do on the timelines as promised, and the flexibility. So this is a really tough one, because as a startup, not knowing really what your demand's going to be, if you call them up and you're like, hey, we screwed up, we didn't order enough, we're going to stock out. If they match that with like, okay, cool, we're going to run through the weekend because we see that you guys are growing and we're going to help you out because it's going to help us out in the long run. If that fit is there, then that's kind of the money spot for a startup. And when you approach like a supplier that may be dealing with some of your competitors or whatever, that's way bigger, used to way bigger, more rigid delivery timelines, minimum order quantities, that's going to be a little tougher to find, because they're like, hey, well, it takes 3 months to produce this, and too bad if you need it sooner, kind of thing. It's a sweet spot that you have to find with manufacturers and partners as a startup. And it really does come back and full circle back to that first meeting you have with them, and the passion and the drive they have. And, if they want your business because they believe in your company and they want to grow with you, or if they want your business because it's just like a check, it becomes very clear in those meetings.
So it sounds like you're speaking from a lot of experience with when you say that they helped you out there for a second when you're like stocked out or whatever. Am I picking at this up right?
Yeah, well, like I said, we've had this, this curve that went straight up. So we've had situations where it's like, hey, we need this stuff like a week earlier. Like, can you help us out? And fortunately, our manufacturers have been like, yeah, like we can do that. Like, this is awesome because next time around, you're going to place more orders, So we've been through that because, that then just causes customer service issue. Hey, buddy, where's my order? It's been like 15 days. So it's like you have to really push on those timelines. And then when it gets to our, 3PL, our logistics company, we had to be like, hey, I know there's a process where it's like, hey, our order being received was behind like 10 other orders. It's like, hey, this is like an emergency situation. Can you help us out? Can you work with us? And we really built strong relationships through the way. And for us working with them, we built a lot of strong loyalty to them because they were able to work with us. So we've been approached by other 3PLs and other manufacturers saying like, hey, we want your business. It's like, well, these people stuck with us in tough times and they worked hard for us and they have, great pricing, great reliability. So why would we switch? And, again, I think that's because we've come from this place of honesty and openness and integrity. And it's like, hey, this is us. And like, we're in a little bit of hot water here. Can you help us? And they're like, yeah, cool. We see that like what the bigger picture is. So we've been really fortunate with the people that we've worked with. And I think it's been a lot of great learning experiences for them along the way too. They've grown with us and we've grown with them.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, real quick, what's a 3PL?
A third-party logistics company.
Okay, yeah, that must be like a product or a manufacturing term, yeah?
Yeah, it's operations, logistics, and supply chain management.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's so great. So at this point, you have now created an idea. You've gone through the process, set up manufacturing. You're getting tons of sales. Day one, first day, what was day one's amount of sales when you launched the site?
I'd have to look back and actually see. I don't really know offhand. Day one wasn't actually that huge. Like it was pretty substantial in terms of the members that signed up, and it was all from our our mailing list, from our social media presence. And then day two is when it really took off. That's when like those people who had signed up started sharing the video. Kind of bringing on their friends. People trust what their friends recommend and what their friends buy. And that's when the stickiness of this really, like this club started to kind of catch on. And that's when we did some more influencer kind of posts and pushes. And that got us to new audiences. And from there, it was like somebody posted about it on Reddit, put the video on Reddit. And like that just went crazy in the Reddit community, got upvoted. We got a product hunt. And then from there, it was like Huffington Post and all these different media outlets, like, basically posting the video, be like, hey, Dollar Beard Club's real, like check it out kind of thing. And people really love the video. It was received well, so that's when it really took off. And just exponentially for that first month, we were just like, how big is this gonna get, and then the reality started to set in. It's like, hey, this is a real company now. Like this is like, holy crap, we have a lot to do. Like now we're playing catch up. Before we'd put all this work in, it's like, hey, we're so far ahead, and then like boom, you launch, and it's like, okay, now the real work begins.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people are like, oh, you guys are so fortunate to be where you are, and we're really grateful for that, but it's because of a lot of hard work of a lot of dedicated team members that we've been able to keep up with that. And it's definitely not like an overnight thing, as much as those first few days in that initial launch make it seem. There was a lot of work behind the scenes. Beforehand and after we launched that really went into this. So I can't be humble enough about it. It's not like hey, like, yeah, we're rich. It's definitely so much more involved than that. And really, again, owe it to all of our awesome team members that just bleed for Dollar Beard Club.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the saying, what you practice in private, you'll be rewarded for in public.
Yeah.
And that's so true. Many people don't realize the hours and hours and hours, the skip party weekends and the trips that you have to sacrifice not going on to. But now I see on Instagram and all this other kind of stuff that you guys are having an awesome life, and you've created a revolution that has impacted so many people. When you guys first started this, you guys pressed launch on day one, but did you have a pre-sale? at all, or did you just go straight into the main sale?
Yeah, we went straight into the main sale. We were really toying with the idea of doing pre-sales again to like help with the cost of manufacturing and stuff. But we really just decided that we wanted to like take the time and do it right and launch it right out of the gates, because pre-sales do come with, additional risks and additional so if you're to pre-sell something and you're going to like actually deliver that product 2 months later, you have however many thousands of people that are waiting on that who have questions all along the way. It's not that I'm not recommending pre-sales at all. For many companies, it's a fantastic way. We just chose not to do it with Dollar Beard Club specifically. We just wanted to go full force, get right into it.
Because your first main success, the one that was on Shark Tank called Coolbox, that was on Indiegogo in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So 2 different philosophies there. Was there something in the idea of a product subscription business that maybe Indiegogo / Kickstarter wouldn't be appropriate for versus a one-time purchase product?
That's kind of one of the main issues with subscription-based stuff and like say an Indiegogo, Kickstarter. Like you'd really have to do it pre-sale through your website. It becomes that issue with the anniversary date. Are we then billing all these people on one day? Like as soon as we ship it, that's their reorder date. It's a bit of a tricky mix. When you have orders through Indiegogo, you then would have to transfer or somehow get all of that credit card information, get them to buy again a second time on your website when you launch in order to actually have all that data. So that was, the main reason we didn't through a third-party platform like that. But there's lots of advantages with Indiegogo, including their reach, their exposure. Same with Kickstarter, their trustability is, comparing Coolbox to Dollar Beard Club, again, Coolbox is a very complicated product. Some of the tools on that, like just the molds, were, over $100,000 to make just the mold, like not a single product, just the product that makes the products. Wow. So it's complicated. There's technology involved. Beard Club, we're talking about like glass bottles, label, cap, oil. Or shampoo or whatever. Like it's something that a manufacturer literally does all day, every day anyways, especially in the case of like a shampoo or a body wash. So the complexity was completely different. So for us, it was like, hey, we can do this very simply, very quickly on our own. And again, it's going to depend on whichever product whoever's watching is making. It really have to kind of check out that fit and see what it is. But in terms of the reoccurring billing, that's going to be an issue if you're on one of those third-party platforms.
Totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. So when we talk about third-party platforms, those are about sales. It's about getting pre-orders. But what has been the best channel you have found for selling your product subscription business products? Was it social media outreach, influencer marketing, pay-per-click advertising, SEO? What's the best channel that you should put all your energy in?
Again, it depends on your business and where your customers are. For us, Facebook's been really great because it's so, first of all, so many people are on Facebook. It's an amazing avenue to acquire customers for any business. And the ability to really hone in on your target audience and laser target them is incredible on that. We've also done influencer marketing. You really have to be careful with influencer marketing because everyone's tempted to go out and get, a Dan Bilzerian or Vin Diesel and try and get like a massive deal. But that's a huge risk in terms of the money that you're going to spend versus the return, which is completely unknown. Instagram hasn't been our strongest acquisition channel, but it's been wicked for us for branding and for, people who know about our brand and follow us and stuff. And so it's been a great channel for us to grow our brand. It's really going to depend on the specific business, but Facebook right now, I think is the king of marketing for most businesses. But again, SEO is incredibly important especially if people are searching for your product, having like a strong presence of those keywords that people with the issue the problem that you're solving are searching for. If they're able to find you when they're searching, that's, money right there, literally.
Yeah. I think you're validating a lot of the people in the Entrepreneur Alliance because Right now, a lot of our members, I would say probably 50 to 60% of them are internet marketers. So, including myself, I own a marketing agency.
We actually didn't have much exposure to the internet marketing world. I mean, which is funny because we're an e-commerce business, but I think there's a big separation. There's like the startup community, and then there's like the internet marketing community, and there's like the celebrity influencer kind of world too. And we've been able to kind of make a bridge between all those different areas, and going to the traffic and conversion or the masterminds on like the internet marketing world, being involved with like 500 startups and kind of like the actual startup world and being networked in that community, and then being able to hang out with influencers and get into the networks of some of those people. It's given us a good snapshot at all of that. But some of the tactics that you guys in the internet marketing world know are so helpful to startups that are kind of using their traditional kind of startup style thinking and like, scaling and stuff like that. But making those landing pages and those funnels, even if it's like ClickFunnels stuff or lead pages or whatever it is, like that's just a complete unknown to so many different, like even apps, for example, like people that are launching apps. Being able to combine those worlds has been huge for us. And, likewise, we've learned stuff in the startup space we've brought over to the internet marketing friends that we have and kind of combine those. So really like branching out from like your comfort zone and seeing what you can take from other realms in the marketing world's definitely recommended,
Wow.
I think.
So cool, man. Now, what was like your all's tipping point? You made, $8 million in the first 8 months. Was it pretty evenly distributed, $1 million a month? Was it almost like this? Or, what was the tipping point that just things spiraled?
I mean, like we've had, a pretty steady incline. Like it definitely like went this and like leveled off a little bit. And that's when we started to have website issues that we were able to go in and tackle and kind of pull apart the code that needed fixing and stuff like that. And now we're at this point again where we're like, hey, we have everything on lockdown. Now we can start to do really cool scaling tests and different landing pages and different stuff like that. We really like out of the gate should have done more email marketing and communicating with our customers more. We're just so behind on everything. There was, obviously the first initial bump. And then we, really got in tight with Dan Bilzerian, and he posted a couple videos, and that gave us a couple big bumps. But again, with influencer marketing, it's when you really expect to push and it doesn't come, it can be very disappointing. If somebody's paying, say, $20,000 for a post from like a celebrity, again, that's a big risk. You might be better off finding somebody if you sell, I don't know, a toolbox, for example, like a small DIY blog to mention your product may be more beneficial than, Tim Allen, Tim the Toolman Taylor. Yeah. So it's really kind of finding that fit. But right now is a really good time to work with influencers. I know I'm off on a tangent. I think right now is a really good time to work with influencers. There's so many people out there that just want to make a living out of being them, which is definitely understandable. It's this whole new thing where people are just famous just because. So being able to tap into that and people that want to make income from that and do it in their own funny way, it's definitely good to experiment with. But I would definitely caution people not to like get too hot and heavy over some big influencer and spend a ton of money on it. Like really do your research first on what their demographic is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've had different spikes from different media exposure. But yeah, that first 8 months was pretty crazy. It did ramp up though. It wasn't just like right up, but there's little dips in the graph and peaks as well.
That's awesome. So I'm the chief marketing officer for the Entrepreneur Alliance, and I'm doing a lot of influencer marketing, trying to make deals and stuff. And we have a pretty competitive, a pretty gracious affiliate program where we give 50% of our revenue that's recurring. So we're a monthly membership site at $30 a month. And so we actually give 50% of that revenue back to the people who refer us. So part of our influencer marketing is how do we reach out to somebody and not pay anything up front, but then give them a passive income stream for work they do on 1 or 2 or 5 posts. Have you seen that work for not? So we're not a product. We're an info product, basically. Have you seen that work at all in the physical product, monthly recurring subscription business?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've really we're really looking forward to actually diving into ourselves, being introduced to the internet marketing world. We'd never done anything through affiliates or anything like that. We have a referral program, and we've really only done small tests with it, but I think it can definitely work in the physical product kind of realm. You do see it all the time on Instagram where it's like, this chick's, hey, use my code to get $10 off of these sunglasses. And she's getting paid $10 in the back end, just as an example. I don't know what I thought of that, but it definitely works for physical products. It's a harder sell, especially to a more established influencer. But if somebody's confident with your product and they know it's a fit, then they should be willing to jump on board. They typically don't want to bombard their audience with all these different product posts. But if it's like worthwhile stuff and two-sided referrals, like where you can, like someone can offer a discount and then on the back end they also get paid, that's typically a better way to gain traction as well. But yeah, affiliate space is huge, and it's again one of those things that isn't really overly done in the startup world, but it's huge in the internet marketing world. People launch info products and do 10 million in sales in their first month, and they didn't drive any of the traffic themselves. It's all people with lists. But those people with the lists, this is something that they believe will be a fit for those people. So they're not turning people off by offering it, and they have the right way to introduce it. So definitely something, if you can arrange it with an influencer or with an affiliate, highly recommend doing that. And again, like the snowball that creates isn't necessarily just reduced to like the sales you make. It's like the followers that you'll gain, or like that initial, like, someone will see Entrepreneur Alliance for the first time when someone posts it and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not interested. But like 2 months later, they see it again. They're like, oh, what is this? And they go and look, and you have no idea, but it's tracked back to that original thing. It's that balance between spending for acquisition and spending for brand awareness, growing your brand at the same time. But being a startup, you need to make sales, right?
No, all great points, man. I love it. I see that we're coming up on 55 minutes, so I've taken a lot of your time. Just a quick Q&A. We don't have to make these super long or go on tangents, but Sam asks, is the subscription industry itself a fad, or do you see that this is becoming a more and more used model for selling a product?
I definitely don't think it's a fad. It's really taken off in the last 5 years. I spoke at a conference that Zora, which is another subscription billing-based company, that they hosted, and there's just tons of great subscription companies coming out. They call it the subscription-based economy, in their words, which is so true. You see all kinds of different big box stores getting into it. Amazon's really getting into it. I don't think it's a fad. I don't think that every product is necessarily a fit for the subscription business. There's a lot of companies that try and either don't succeed because they didn't do it right or just because it wasn't the right fit. I think it's going to continue to be more popular, and people don't necessarily want to go in and buy this stuff or this stuff. If they can get it cheaper delivered right to their door, it's like receiving a present. And that's really something we're trying to build into our service as well moving forward, is like, how do we make this even more fun when people open their box, throwing something in there for them, or something to really look forward to. So no, I definitely don't think it's a trend, but I don't think it's a fit for every company.
Yeah, good point. All right, so how about MJ? She asks, what is your top challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Basically, as a company, our top challenge was tech. Like we said, we really struggled with that as we got bigger and couldn't handle what we'd kind of put together. So overcoming that would have been going with that out-of-the-box system, something that's more simple, that you can then move away from when you get more sales, more funding, you have more cash in the bank, or you get a bigger investment. So that was kind of where we had kind of made the mistake of going too customized too soon, and it was part of our vision of like having all these different components to the website. We were really excited about it, but so that's been our biggest kind of like pair of handcuffs that we've had since we started. But it's really nice to have those off, and now we can actually scale. Fortunately, we built something that was really sticky in the meantime, so we were able to kind of weather that storm. I guess personally, the biggest, roadblock has just been, the guy in the mirror. I think everybody faces that. At the end of the day, you're your worst critic, and definitely like this business and every other business has taught me so much about myself and really allowed me to shed, self-judgment. And, that's still natural. When you screw up, you kind of beat yourself up a little bit, but really finding out like what you're truly capable of is a really sometimes scary thing, but also liberating thing. And just developing as a person is something that entrepreneurs get to do constantly. But yeah, still the biggest critic's still myself. And it's interesting, like you said, I post on Instagram of us like enjoying our lives and stuff, but I don't post, me at my computer at 10:30 at night. So I'm kind of selective in that sense. But I guess those are the two biggest, personal and business.
I love it. I do the same thing, man. Like I feel like Instagram's really more like a highlight reel, right? Like nobody actually shows what they do every day. Yep. And so many wantrepreneurs, the people who are trying to be entrepreneurs, they look at this and say, that's all entrepreneurship is living the life. Yeah. But they don't see what goes into making that happen.
Right. It goes back to that whole, I guess, fake it before you make it kind of thing. It's very common with entrepreneurs or, especially in the network marketing world. It's just kind of portraying that lifestyle that everybody wants to see. Meanwhile, that might not be the truth. So it's a bit of a balance there, but I don't think people really want to see me at my computer anyway. So I'll just some fun stuff here and there.
I think that same thing too. Gary Vaynerchuk is like one of the only guys that I look at that actually shows his grind on a daily basis and people rah behind it,
Yeah. No, it's been really cool to see the rise of Gary V over the last, couple of years, just following him, and people really resonate with that. And he speaks the truth from he speaks from his heart, and it's not something that he's not done or willing to do. When he tells people, like people ask him for advice, he'll be like, get off your ass and work, or whatever it may be, it's definitely cool to kind of watch that. It's not really my brand. I don't really have a personal brand, to be honest. But maybe I should have one. I don't know.
Well, man, I think you're a pretty likable guy. I only have one more question for you. What is the number one piece of advice that you can give anybody who's thinking about starting a product subscription business?
That's a good one. I think it kind of peppered a lot in throughout. Mm-hmm. I guess really is this something that you really feel passionate about? It's more than just like a subscription question, I guess. Yeah. Is this something that you're willing to give it your all for years on end to? Because if you don't have that fit and it doesn't feel right, then it's just not going to work. Again, going back to, are you willing to put your own money in it? Subscription, specifically, is really get that tech button down. Yeah. You can start with something out of the box. It's going to save you a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of headaches. And just, really be careful with the suppliers that you get in contact with, and do your research as much as you possibly can, and make sure that it's something that the market's going to accept, or that you can make the market accept. Because, again, most people don't know what beard products are or what they do. So that's an opportunity for us. It's not really a challenge, but in order to get there, we had to, know that there was a base market we could really tap into. So you can go into something completely new that's never been done before, but just kind of know that there is potential there, that you're going to have some room to get those sales to go after that bigger market.
I love it, man. That is awesome. Well, I have taken up way too much of your time out of your busy day. You've built this incredible empire. Now go work it, buddy. Thank you so much for letting me and the rest of the Entrepreneur Alliance hear your story. It was inspiring. I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did too. And I just think it's awesome what you're building, man. If people wanted to connect with you or just follow you or whatever it is, what's the best way to do that?
Probably the best way is LinkedIn.
Yeah?
It's usually the best. Or you can tag me on your Facebook post when you share it if people are your friends and want to get in contact. But usually LinkedIn's best for me because it keeps everything organized. Every time I give out my email address, I get 30 new emails, and I feel obligated to help everyone, but can't help 95% of people just timing wise. But that's kind of my goal eventually, is to someday, after Dollar Beard Club, just be able to spend all of my time helping people. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that philosophy, man. Well, it was so great having you on. Any last minute things you want to say before we end the call?
To the guys out there, grow your beards. Check out Dollar Beard Club. To the girls out there, be patient with your men if they want to grow their beards, because it'll allow him to be who he truly is. And Austin, you should grow your beard too, man.
Dude, I wish I could. Can your products help me? Because look at this. I'm like a naked mole rat.
Well, listen, that's what we've kind of really realized while we were doing this, and why it's resonated so well, is that goes back to that, like, be who you truly are. It doesn't matter how big your beard is. The fact that you're willing to grow it, if you can grow less facial hair, it makes you more of a man if you grow it, I think, because you're more confident with that. And every single man on this planet, whether they just shaved or whether they haven't shaved in 10 years, is growing facial hair. It happens naturally every second of every day. So
you're the man, dude. You're such a cool guy. All right, buddy. Well, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much. This has been another masterclass by the Entrepreneur Alliance. Thank you, Alex, and sharing your story with the Dollar Beard Club. I hope to talk to you soon, man.
Likewise, brother.
See you, buddy.